Okay, we're live, Pat.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us here. We have a very special program as far as being able to shed some light on the prevalence of cancer in the athletic community. And we are very, very fortunate to be joined today by two very special people who understand all too well the realities of cancer and how this disease affects the family, the team, and so many others outside of themselves. Over the past year, both these individuals have experienced the realities of a cancer diagnosis, cancer treatment, and their families have pulled together to see their loved ones through this battle, and both have joined the HEADstrong Foundation in an effort to support and really be champions and stewards of the HEADstrong mission. And the HEADstrong Foundation is an organization that was started by my brother, Nicholas Kalaluri, back in 2006 in wake of a terminal cancer diagnosis. And like our guest, Nick realized that there was a lack of available support for patients and families and wanted to shed light on the realities of this disease and, try to provide supportive services to help families navigate their cancer journey with a greater quality of life, more clarity, dignity, and more importantly, normalcy. And I think the term normal probably resonates with anybody that's been affected by cancer. And so we are very lucky today to be joined by Kaitlin Tavarez, who is a member of the women's volleyball team at Northwestern University, and Kathleen O'Connor, who is a member of the women's lacrosse team at Villanova University. Two young ladies who have experienced a very similar path over the past 12 months. And I'm Pat Kalaluri. I serve as CMO of the HEADstrong Foundation. And as I had mentioned, Nick Kalaluri, the founder of the organization, was my brother. And so I want to go ahead and share that I'm actually broadcasting this from the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. And one of the things that the HEADstrong Foundation offers in a way to ease some of the anxieties around the holidays is our organization is instrumental in serving families that are unfortunately spending the holidays in this tough time of year in the hospital, inpatient. And so we're actually in the process of converting patient service rooms and conference rooms over to dining rooms. And tomorrow we will be feeding more than 500 people, providing comfort kits and spending time with both patients and their families, trying to just make the best of this situation and promote some Christmas cheer and holiday cheer, and really just kind of assure families that they're not alone in the fight and that we know what it's like to be in the hospital at the holidays. And so right now, I just kind of do like a little peruse, like around like the room, like to see, like we were starting to decorate the rooms. Each room, I don't know if you can kind of get a good glance on this, but each room typically will serve, and we have as many as anywhere from 75 guests per floor, and we'll serve a full meal tomorrow, deliver comfort kits, and that's really at the heart of some of the things that kind of get overshadowed by some of the larger services that HEADstrong offers, but these ancillary things are certainly some of the most meaningful. The people on these floors, the staff as well, we empower and encourage family members to join us. And like, for instance, at Thanksgiving, one of the larger families we served this year had 17 family members. And it's such a great way to rally around that person who's fighting and is in the hospital. This can be an incredibly depressing and defeating time of year for so many. And so that is what we're doing today in preparation. And like I said, Jeff coordinated this amazing call with these two spectacular NCAA student athletes who understand all too well the reality. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. Thank you all so much for joining us, and take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. I would love for you two ladies to kind of introduce yourself and pretty much tell your story, and then we can kind of bounce some Q&As off both of you guys. So I'm going to start with Kathleen, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Just getting my charger here. I'm Kathleen O'Connor. I'm from New Vernon, New Jersey. I am a senior now at Villanova. I play lacrosse there, like we talked about. Last fall, I came back from the summer, and I felt fine. Like, I was working out all summer, and then like about a week after I moved in, I felt a weird pain on my shoulder. Kind of like I slept weirdly on it, or like it was just like sore from like moving in and like moving stuff. I don't really know what I thought. So I was seeing my sports doctor at school, and it was a little bit swollen, but he was like, oh, like, here's some inflammatory pills, like, well, let's keep on it. So I kept playing. I ran a run test with it. I felt fine. And then like a couple weeks later, it still wasn't getting better. I went back to see, so then after Labor Day, I went, we reran a run test, and I like couldn't breathe. I was like, all right, something's not right. Like, I know I'm not in that bad of shape, so we'll see. So I went back to see the doctor, and he was like, all right, we'll schedule an MRI. And then over that weekend, so that was like on a Thursday, I kept getting like low-grade fevers, and my trainer was like, all right, just go to the health center, see what's going on. And then, so I went to the health center on that Thursday, and then they said to come back on Monday for a follow-up. And I, on that Saturday, my lymph node in my neck popped up, and I was like, I thought it was like a knot from like holding my shoulder because it was really sore. But I went back, and they were like, no, like, that's your lymph node. So they changed my MRI to an ultrasound and a chest x-ray the next day. And that was the September 13th of last year. And then I went into the health center, and they're like, yeah, we have your results. Like, come in. And I walked in, and I was like, hey, guys, like, what's up? And everyone, like, kind of looked at me funny, and I was like, like, this is weird, like, whatever. Sat down. It was just my new trainer and I and Dr. Duncan. And he, like, didn't talk for, like, a few minutes, and I was like, what? Like, what's going on? And he was like, well, the radiologist, like, primary concern, there's two things it could be. They said either, like, a lung infection or a lymphoma. And I was like, what's that? Like, I didn't even know what lymphoma was. And then they sent me for a CAT scan later that day at, like, 3 or 4 o'clock. And then my mom came down, met me there, went back, and then Dr. Duncan called me back again and was like, all right, we have your results again. And then he sat us down and was like, so they think that it's probably lymphoma, most likely Hodgkin's. So his wife actually was like best friends with one of the oncologists at Bryn Mawr Hospital, like right by Villanova. So I was sent there the next day. My dad and my sister came down, and I just like got like checked out and stuff. They scheduled a PET scan, a biopsy for the next day, and then the following Monday was the biopsy. And then I was going to get a second opinion at Penn. So the PET scan came back, and they're like, yes, like, it's definitely a lymphoma. It's like a 90% chance that it's Hodgkin's. Like, it'd be really random if it wasn't. So I, oh, my video is not on.
You're good.
Oh, no, there it is. Sorry. Oh, wait, is it on?
Before. No, we could see him before.
Okay, now can you see
There
me?
we go.
We could see him.
Sorry, I was just really confused. Anyway, so they said it was like 90% chance Hodgkin's, and then I got a biopsy, and like it took like longer than they thought to get back. So I was on my way to go to Penn to like see a doctor there for a second opinion, and literally like the day before I was going, the Bryn Mawr called and was like, no, like, it's a non-Hodgkin's anaplastic large cell lymphoma, which is like really rare apparently. So then they're actually doing a clinical trial over at CHOP. So they sent me over to CHOP, and I met my new doctors, all this stuff. And like originally when they thought it was Hodgkin's, they were going to say my treatment was going to be like half a day every 2 weeks, outpatient. But then with the new diagnosis, they said it's, okay, sorry, inpatient for 5 days in the hospital. No. Go away. I'm doing something. I'm not. No, go away. Actually, go away. Because he can't hear me. So it's 5 days inpatient for 6 cycles. So I was about to turn 21. So I started on October 7th. My birthday was the 4th. So I turned 21, and then I went in for my first round like 3 days later. And then after each one, I got an infection, so I had to go back to the hospital and stay. I had a blood clot in my heart, so I had to go to the ICU for a while. And I just kept getting fevers going. I was in like the local hospital all the time, just like with the fever and like infections, whatever. They would transfer me down to CHOP, all that stuff. But yeah, and then I got my scans again in November. So I started in October, I got rescanned in November, and they said I was in complete remission, which is awesome. But then I had to keep doing my cycles, which stunk because I just like kept getting smaller and sicker. But I finished treatment January 29th, 2017, and went home for like a week and a half, and then went back to school. And I went back to school second semester, so I've been there ever since. And I went to every game, every practice. Couldn't play, obviously, but I was just a cheerleader for the most part. And yeah, here I am.
Very. Thank you for sharing your story. So, Kaitlin, would you mind sharing a little bit about what happened with you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kaitlin Tavarez. I'm a junior at Northwestern, redshirt sophomore. And this summer I was in Evanston. Oh wait, can you guys see me?
Yeah,
Now we can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I was in Evanston with the rest of my team, just training because we all stay in the summertime. And I was taking 2 classes at the time. And a week before my finals, which were in July 21st, because our preseason starts first week of August, I kind of noticed a lump in my throat, and or right here actually. You can kind of see where the biopsy was, but it just felt really like it didn't feel abnormal at all. I had no pain, no symptoms, I guess. It felt like my collarbone nicked something when I was playing, which had happened before. And so it was the week of my finals, so I kind of didn't want to focus on it. I texted my athletic trainer, hey, I feel this, lump. I don't want it to get bigger, to interfere with anything. Can we get in to see our sports doctor? So she got me in the next day, did some blood work, and she thought that it was something with my thyroid because it was sitting right on top of the thyroid. And so went to the North Shore Hospital, like right down the road, just to get a quick CAT scan, CT. And this kind of progressed over the week. So I had blood work one day, a CT the next day. I had an ultrasound and then the CT the next day. And so my finals were on Friday. And so right before I was about to take my first final, about 30 minutes before, I get a call from Northwestern confirming 3 additional CT scans. So at that moment, I kind of knew, my mind kind of went into fast forward, and I kind of knew something wasn't right. And so I went straight to the health service and sat there until my appointment, which was after my finals. But I kind of knew that something was wrong. So I went and sat there, and my trainer, my sports doctor, kind of told me what their suspicions, that they thought it was lymphoma, kind of what Kathleen was saying, based on just the location and stuff. They thought initially it was Hodgkin's, which it turned out to be. But Northwestern was great. They got me in the 3 additional CT scans the very next day, got an MRI, and biopsy soon after, and they confirmed it was Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2A. And it was kind of it was a really tough crossroads. I had no idea how to proceed. Preseason was starting in a week. I was going to be an upperclassman. This was like a really important year for me. And we saw opinions at UCSF and Stanford. I actually live literally 6 minutes from Stanford in Menlo Park. And so we kind of figured that was the best choice because I would be able to be at home. I had a lot of people kind of telling me, you won't be able to do this, you won't be able to do that. And I initially wanted to stay at school and go to school and train, but I realized quickly that might be more detrimental. So I started treatment at Stanford. I was lucky enough that's where they discovered the treatment for lymphoma. So I felt like I was in really good hands there. I read the book that they gave me. I went through 4 rounds of chemo, I was done of ABVD, and I was done in about 4 months actually, and I was able to do radiation as well every day for about 3 weeks. And after that, I've just been in remission for the past few weeks. I just finished. I'm 21, just turned 21. I don't know if I told you guys that. But yeah, and I'm planning on going back to school when school starts in January, and I'm taking the finals that I was supposed to take next week. So yeah.
It's kind of crazy. You guys are pretty much in the same timeline.
Yeah, same timing.
Yeah.
Apparently the right demographic, apparently, is what they told me.
So tell me about, like, both you guys. The camera has kind of gone off, but we can still record and like capture your voices on this story here. So tell me, like, how did your team and family react to the diagnosis, and like, what did you guys? I mean, you could take it. I can go with Kaitlin first. Like, how did your team and family react? Because you probably were on campus first, foremost when you got the news.
Yeah. Well, our health center is a couple blocks from our off-campus house, and so I kind of went home that day. I lived with 7 of my teammates in a house, and they were all there. They kind of knew I was going through testing that week for something that wasn't just a one appointment thing, and so they kind of just saw my face when I came home from that appointment, and they kind of knew. But my family flew in that day, but during that time they kind of just like sat with me because they knew they wouldn't be seeing me for a while, and like just like sometimes you don't need to say anything, and you just kind of being there was totally enough for me. And the time that I wasn't with them, they made me feel like I was still there. Just like lots of FaceTime. I mean, it was in season, so they couldn't visit, but all the film that I would be watching in Evanston, I was able to watch at home. The coaches still treated me like I was an active player, asking for input. Yeah, I mean, your team is another family, right? So that they really treated me as such, and it really that really got me through, because your family, your immediate family is always gonna say like everything's gonna be okay, stuff like that. But when you have friends that really step up and step into that role as family, it really helps. So,
how about you, Kathleen?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same. I was like, sorry. I was lucky enough that I wasn't in season last fall because our season's in the spring. So originally I did want to stay. Well, when I thought it was Hodgkins, I was going to be at Bryn Mawr and just like go for half a day every 2 weeks. So I was like, oh, I'll stay in school. I'll take 3 classes, like yada, yada. But the reality of it was I was actually going to be in Philly for 5 days in the hospital all the time. I tried to stay in school at the beginning, and then I was like, this is too much. Like after I got an infection after the first treatment, I had an extra 10 days in the hospital. So I missed like 2 weeks. I missed all my midterms. So I was like, okay, this is just not going to be focusing on right now. So I took the semester off, went home. I only live like less than 2 hours from Villanova. So I was able to come back like whenever my counts were high and I was feeling good, I would go just like hang out. I also live in a house with 12 of my teammates. So just having them there, like they gave me a reason to come back to school. Honestly, like if I wasn't on a team, I probably like wouldn't have like made the effort and like fought with my parents to want to go back. And I wasn't in season, so my friends could come visit. Like they came after class, they came after practice, like just randomly when I was there for those 5 days. And kind of like what Kaitlin said, when I was going through the testing, I told my best friend like what our sports doctor said. I was like, they think it's lymphoma, and she was like, well, like that's crazy, like there's no way, blah blah blah. And then she like knew everything that was going on, but no one else really knew. I didn't want to like spread anything until I really knew what was going on. So after I got my PET scan results, my coach knew what was going on. Obviously, I'd tell her why I wasn't at practice and stuff. But I sat my team down on that Friday after the PET scan, and I was like, this is what's going on. I'm going to redshirt this year. I don't really know like what school holds. I didn't know at that point like if I was going to be in school, if I wasn't. And I think their reaction kind of was just like really kind of set in reality, I was like, wow, like this is a really serious thing, obviously, but like I was kind of brushing it off, like, oh, like I'll be fine, like just like something I have to do now. Hopefully I'm getting out of my way now. Like people tend to get sick when they're older, but it just so happens that we get it at 21. I don't know why. So I think having their reaction, like they took it so hard, it was kind of like, wow, like this is real. But also I come from a big family. I have 4 siblings. I have 3 brothers and a sister. They're all older. So when I called my dad when he was at work, and he's like, well, I'm busy. Like, what's up? And I was like, the doctor has to talk to you. Like, so he called my mom because she wasn't answering my phone calls because she never does. And they came down. My sister came down the next day, and it was just kind of just like went into action mode. Like, okay, like what's next? We didn't really get time to like sit down and like think about it. So when I came home after like that first like initial testing day at Bryn Mawr, like all my brothers came back from New York City, we had dinner and like kind of just try to act as normal as possible. Like they didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up. My mom was like, so Kathleen, like tell the boys what the doctor said. And I was like, why? Like they already know, like blah, blah, blah. So like we didn't really have to talk about it at the beginning. But like as soon as I started treatment, they were there every single day. They would take off work. They came, they would leave work early. I gave them excuses to not go to work. So I think they're happy with that. They took the bus down from the city. Like they slept in the hospital room with me. And same with my team. Like it's just kind of like when my family couldn't be there, my teammates were there. My family couldn't be, like my family wasn't there. Like I would just be by myself, and it was never alone because I either had teammates, I had my family, I had like my roommates, like everyone was just always around. And I think just being on a team and like that sense of like another family, like Kaitlin was saying, like away from home, is just like the biggest thing that kind of like gets you through like a terrible time. Like you'd be surprised, like everyone will drop everything and come running because like that was like the biggest thing. Like they would skip class and be like, oh, like I don't have to go to class today. Like I'm gonna go hang out with Kathleen. Like they wrote me letters. They like gave me like a million gifts that like I didn't have room for. They came to the hospital and colored pictures and they put them all over the walls, like just like dumb stuff. Like they would just distract me, honestly. Like if I was like getting my treatment at that point, they would like tell me an embarrassing story that happened to them in class, or like talk about practice that day, if it was like fun, if it was terrible, if they ran a lot, like just kind of distracted me from what was actually like going on at that point. So yeah, just like that family away from family, and then also my actual family was like amazing, but they definitely like took it the hardest, I would say, because like watching your sister and your daughter like go through something like that is like very real. And I think they were kind of like, if this happens to her, like she's a healthy Division I athlete, like what could happen to anyone else? So I think that kind of really set and hit home for them. But yeah.
Now, knowing that what the foundation does for how we support families affected by cancer, and I'm sure you guys saw different families having to travel. I mean, you guys had to travel.
Mm-hmm.
What could teams do, or what could people do to continue to help support families that are going through this battle? I mean, obviously, our foundation gives an avenue where people can fundraise and bring awareness. But what do you think you guys are going to do after this to like kind of keep our message going and keep your story going to the others out there?
Well, over at Northwestern has Lurie Children's Hospital, and so our football team actually goes there a lot and volunteers there, and our team has been involved with other organizations, but I'm hoping to, I think we're all on board where we do want to make that push to transition some of our efforts to a cause that's a bit more personal, so which is part of why we partnered with you guys at the HEADstrong Foundation. So I'm sure Kathleen would agree, but going through this at 20 was traumatic enough, so I can't even imagine what going through any kind of cancer would be like at a young age. And so I think I'm really excited to go and interact with those kids and families because, like Kathleen was saying, I think at times my parents and my brother, they took it harder than I did, because I think when you're going through treatment, like chemo or radiation, you kind of disassociate and you think, oh, someone's going through this, but it's not necessarily me. Like I'm not sick. I'm not away. I'm not out of the game. You know, it's you're kind of in and out of your own head. And so, like, helping people who are younger that are dealing with this is something that I look forward to, because Kathleen and I were right on the cusp. Like, we could have been treated like pediatric care or, you know, with older people. And so I was at the Stanford Cancer Center. I wasn't at the Children's Hospital. So, and I chose to do that because the protocol was better for me. But so it was all older patients. But I'm looking forward to getting to know some of those younger patients and helping them.
Now, what are you studying, and has this experience maybe changed what you want to do in your life moving forward?
I'm a communications major. Don't really know what I want to do with my life yet. I like marketing and advertising, but I just remember like being in the hospital and seeing like all these little kids, like Kaitlin was saying, like wanting to get involved. Like, our team is already pretty involved with HEADstrong. We fundraise somewhat regularly. We're trying to do more of that, and we did like the 5K run. We to have a HEADstrong game during our season, and I think, well, now I feel more involved in the cause because of just last year and like having the similarities with Nick, like sharing the same jersey number, being a lacrosse player, just like kind of having a lot of similarities like throughout our treatment and things like that. But I think one thing that stood out to me the most when I was in the hospital was having a social worker there who like wasn't necessarily like just for like my parents' like financial like bills and stuff like that, but she would come in and like talk to me like, how are you feeling, like how is this, how is that, like, and like asking me what like they could provide that would maybe help me get through those 5 days quicker and stuff like that. And I think that would be something that I think maybe would be good at, just like kind of reaching out and maybe like not comparing, but like relating to them, like how I felt when I was 21 years old in the hospital, like with little kids around. Like, that's obviously like scary for me, seeing these little kids, like they're so sick. There's kids in the ICU that are like barely hanging on. And I was probably the only person in the ICU who was like running around, like didn't think I had to be there, but I clearly had to. I would like escape from my room, like, where are you going? I was like, I'm bored. I don't want to lay down here anymore. But I think just really like try to help people through like what's coming next. There's a couple girls actually at Villanova who just got diagnosed this past year with, one girl had Hodgkin's lymphoma and just finished her treatment a couple weeks ago. She's a sophomore. And then a girl who graduated 2 years ago, one of my good friends just got diagnosed with the same type that I had. So just like having people like text me saying like, hey, like crazy story, but like yada yada is going through the same thing you did. Like, could you reach out to her and maybe like talk about this stuff? Like, and I think that really helps me kind of like come to terms with what happened and try to like move forward and try to make it seem like it was like a memory almost, but obviously it was very real. So I think helping people like helps me like kind of move on with like what went on and like make sure I'm focusing on the future and not like always reflecting, oh wow, that was really terrible. Like, I don't want to like feel bad for myself that happened. I would rather like take that and turn it into something positive and help the next person that's going to go through this, whether it's like your cousin, your neighbor, your like friend's dog walker sister, like anyone that you know. Like, I think that helps you kind of move in the right direction, like away from this like trauma almost.
Sure. How about you, Kaitlin?
So I'm majoring in economics and philosophy and minoring in business, and I declared that a year ago. So I'm kind of well on the way. There's no turning back now. But I'm not really sure what I want to do. I had initially wanted to work in finance, and so financial recruiting in the fall, and so obviously I couldn't go through that, and that made me think, what am I gonna do? But I ended up being able to do a few phone interviews and a virtual interview, and ended up getting a job. So we'll see if that works out. But like Kathleen was saying, this kind of really makes you think, and it's definitely you go through physical trauma and mental trauma, but the way to go through that is just to pass it forward. Like whatever you found helpful going through your treatment, I can't wait to share that with other people and to just sit there and listen, because someone to be there to listen is really therapeutic, and you definitely need that. So and looking forward to continuing to work with the HEADstrong Foundation and local hospitals in the Chicago area and Palo Alto.
Yeah, we'll have to get you both connected up with our head-to-head program, which provides peer support. Basically what you guys are explaining and you've done firsthand and want to do firsthand. Well, let's take this opportunity to thank somebody or some people in your life. Obviously, you've done it a lot so far with your team and your family. Are there certain people that you want to like highlight and say, I couldn't have done it without this person? Kathleen,
I mean, I think pretty obviously my mom and dad. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did without them. Like they were really kind of like pushing me to make sure I was eating, make sure I was going outside, make sure I wasn't just like feeling sorry for myself and sitting on the couch. Obviously my siblings were huge. My sister, my 3 brothers, they were always down at the hospital, always like cracking jokes about like they always like try to make light out of situations, and they would like when I lost my hair, they were like, oh, like Mr. Clean, like whatever, like being annoying. But I think they try to like keep things light even when things weren't light, obviously. So obviously my family is number one. My roommates, Tara D'Angelo and Lizzie Armstrong, they were literally at the hospital like every treatment I had. They're 2 of my best friends, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to do the things that I did without them. They kind of like were also like my liaisons between the team and me, because I didn't want to like write in our group and be like, hey guys, like I'm back in the hospital. Like, so they would like let everyone know what was going on. My coaches too, they knew everything that was going on. They would explain things to the team when I like wasn't feeling up to it. My best friends from home, from the beach, is like really all of them. Olivia Gasser, Catherine Akonda, Brad Egan, Chase DiLeonardo, MJ Kesnick, really all those people. Yeah, just my crew. And HEADstrong, obviously. I didn't really, like I knew HEADstrong before this all happened. Like I played my first volleyball tournament my freshman year. We played in the HEADstrong tournament. And I didn't know of like Nick's story before that, but I remember like seeing Cheryl like give this whole speech and giving out the Nick Colori Award. One of my teammates got it because they gave it to one person on each team every tournament. I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like that's a great award to get. And then literally 2 years later, I got a call from Mike, and he was like, we want to invite you to our gala. We want to present you with this Nick Colori Award. And I was like, what? Like, what's happening? It was just kind of like full circle. So definitely thanking HEADstrong for like just bringing me on, letting me be a part of this great cause, and letting me share this with my team and the Villanova athletics community in general. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Kaitlin?
Well, kind of the first line of defense here was my athletic trainers and doctors at Northwestern. When I felt the lump, my trainer was like, oh, we're going to get you in tomorrow to our health center. And then it was, we're going to get you a CT scan tonight, and then a PET or ultrasound tonight. And they just really prioritize. There's just no waiting. Like there's no, and I really think that's important because, you know, I felt 100% fine. Like I continued to play volleyball in our preseason trip with the diagnosis because I didn't want to tell the incoming freshman what was going on until after the trip. So, and they made that possible, and they got in all the testing. They knew I wasn't going to get treated there because I needed to be home. And so they sent that directly to Stanford, and which brings me to Drs. Advani and Richard Hoppy, who were incredible. A lot of other people were giving me a 6-month treatment time, 6 months to a year. And he said, nope, we're going to get you done in 4 months, 3 to 4 months. And really took into account that I was an athlete. And so she didn't have me get a port in my chest. I just got a PICC line. Just little things like that make a huge difference down the road. Like, oh, this prolonged chemo will, you know, damage this with your heart and all of these things. So you wanting to have 3 more years of an athletic career, I'm going to do everything I can to not jeopardize that. With the radiation, what can we do to minimize the other tissues that they're radiating? So just that was really helpful. And then, so obviously my teammates were in Chicago and weren't able to visit me, but they flew me out for our lymphoma awareness night that we had. That's our AD contacted HEADstrong. They found the foundation because I had talked to my coaches about wanting to make something out of this, and they found the HEADstrong Foundation and then reached out to me about it. And I read Nick's story, and literally this was in the middle of my treatment, and I was like, Nick could, make this light out of what was going on. Like literally anything's possible. And I'm like, was so excited to fly out there. We got the shoelaces for the game, and we raised a couple $1,000. That was our first. I can't wait to see what comes of it. And so that was great. The lymphoma awareness night was like a highlight during the treatment. I was healthy enough to travel, so that was great. And then friends coming out to visit from but they all live on the East Coast or in Chicago, and I'm in California. And I was like, you guys don't need to visit. Like, I'm fine. And they're like, no, you don't know what you are. Like, we want to see you. Like, we haven't seen you in forever. And so just those people making that extra effort to come out and noticing, like forcing me to eat, like stuff like that, offering to shave their heads. My mom taking off work to do cold caps. If no one's heard of that, it's great. It allowed me to keep my hair. I kept 100% of my hair, which even my doctors were like, you can try, but you might as well just kind of not like it. You can try, but it's just probably not going to work. And it worked. So, yeah, just my family, Northwestern athletic community, Dr. Jim Phillips, our athletic director, has been amazing checking with me. They sent me a basket of cookies, just like little things like that. Really went a long way. And they're welcoming me back into the athletic community. My strength coach sending me sometimes all I could do was like little band work, but you know what? That's okay. Like it just kept me going. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both for sharing your story, and hopefully, hearing this will help somebody else down the line. We're really excited to be working with both of you throughout the year and throughout the rest of your athletic career and beyond. So, the support, the awareness, the funds that you guys have raised and are all going to be so helpful to families, not only here in Philadelphia, but nationally, that travel here for our world-renowned resources here in cancer treatments. But again, I want to thank you again for this, and looking forward to working with you throughout the season and your team and your communities.
Yeah, us too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
We're happy to be here.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna end right now, but we'll be in touch. And you guys have a great holiday season.
You too.
Nice.
I'm presently right now in the dining room of Nick's house, which is our 7,000 square foot home that we just finished renovating, and I'm staring out the window at a beautiful snowstorm right now. But the warmth in this house and what it's going to bring to families, and Kathleen got a chance to see it the other week. It wouldn't be possible without people like you guys bringing awareness and funding to the cause. So thanks a lot, and we'll be in touch, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas.